Hey, what's going on, guys? Tigerr here. So today we're finally back with some more Destiny 2 content. I know it's been a long time, but I promise you this video is worth the wait. What I thought I'd go over today is the new game mode Onslaught, what I think is the best hunter build, specifically for Void, to use. And yes, I know before you say anything, yes, it's going to be using Orpheus Rig. Yes, I know it's really common, but there's a few things that I think you'll see in the gameplay that I show that makes this a little bit different, and I think this is a much more enjoyable playstyle, and also it makes it just infinitely more effective. So although this is the same sort of gist for all Void hunters, I do think this build specifically is going to be one of the most fun and useful to use. So jump right in. As I said though, we're using Orpheus Rig. That way we can get extra deadfall energy back when we're using the super. And as you'll see here in the footage, as I'm shooting deadfall, I'm getting the entire super back essentially by the time that the original super that I popped is running out. I just have an entire, the bar for the super is almost entirely full. And that ends up making it really, really strong because you can just kind of chain whenever the adds are starting to spawn in for a new wave, or even in boss fights, if you shoot it in the middle of the room, it just kind of kills every single ad around the boss as well, so it makes it infinitely easier for crowd control. Not to mention it does a decent amount of damage if you're using any sort of weapon for DPS on top of that. Not only do I get to use 2 supers in the middle of 1 DPS cycle, but between getting the energy back constantly from Orpheus Rig and then also being able to use the tether as an extra damage source on top of everything else we're going to be using, I feel like it just doesn't get much better than that. And so outside of the exotics, what I think is the absolute main key point of this build, I think it is incredibly important to run a weapon with repulsor brace and destabilizing rounds. It's basically like having gear falcons on without having gear falcons on. And what I mean by that is you'll basically constantly be invisible and always have volatile rounds. So my weapon of choice is Word of Crota, and as you can see, it kind of just eliminates every single enemy. One of the things that I think makes it so incredibly strong is that its ability to just chain volatile between adds and just cause constant explosions. Not only does it make it incredibly strong for crowd control and keeping enemies from pushing the ADU, I think it makes it just that much stronger from the subclass options, which I'll go over here in a minute. You'll also be generating Void Breaches, which the more Void Breaches you pick up, the more class ability energy you get, so it's another way of just chaining constant ability uptime, not only between your super, but between your dodge, your smoke bomb, your grenade. All of the supplying util that you're able to use with this build, I think just makes it one of the most strong things that you can use in the game right now. But on top of using any sort of void weapon with destabilizing rounds and repulsor brace, I should mention that although my weapon of choice for using repulsor brace and destabilizing rounds is Word of Crota, you can use this with just about anything. The new Recluse rolls with it. You can use the title SMG if you played Guardian games. There's really a bunch of options for weapons with these 2 perks, but these 2 perks are just incredibly strong with providing you overshield from repulsor brace and then constant destabilizing rounds giving you volatile. I would just make sure to absolutely have that on at all costs. And then what I think makes this build so special is on top of using all of the volatile explosions, my super, all of that stuff, for when boss waves come out, whether it's tormentors, whether it's the yellow bars that spawn, or whether it's actually the boss fight for round 20 and so on and so forth. Using the Supremacy with Kinetic Tremors, it does so much damage on top of anything else that you use when it comes to volatile. If you don't feel like getting any more volatile explosions, you just switch to your sniper, shoot the adds with more health, and then you just infinitely get shock waves that will do essentially the same thing. But this time, using a sniper gives you a lot more DPS options, so for the, like I said, for the enemies with more health, it really chunks them down. And so pairing the Supremacy, Kinetic Tremors with things like Word of Crota, or any weapon with volatile rounds, you just get infinite ad clear. You're constantly able to push things away from the ADU, and honestly, as you'll see in the gameplay in the background, I'm basically just spawn trapping absolutely everything in sight, and there's really nothing that they can do about it besides just spawn in, and everything just kind of explodes. And if all that wasn't enough for you, I'm using Deterministic Chaos on top of that. And now my main reasoning for using this is I just really, really genuinely enjoy using any sort of void LMG. But on top of that, using Deterministic Chaos means that for every 4th bullet, you weaken the target. And so not only will you be able to do more damage to it, but on top of everything else, you can pair this with volatile rounds and it works just as well. And with the extra damage of using a heavy LMG, no ad stands a chance when it comes to this, whether it's overload champions that spawn in. Even if you don't have overload procced, you can just melt their entire health bar before they're able to heal back. I know obviously that won't work when it comes to Legend. And as I said, obviously for overload, you can always supplement in something like an auto rifle or a pulse for this season specifically. But really, this is truly one of the only builds in the entire game that I think you can play on just absolute easy mode. Kind of just drop your super, shoot your hand cannon or whatever void weapon you're going to be using, give volatile rounds, and everything just explodes. It makes things incredibly easy. Not only is it easy to use, it's also very fun. There's just something so satisfying about being able to see constant purple explosions everywhere you look. But to wrap things up, I'll show you the exact mods that I'm using. feel free to copy them down. And as always, feel free to adjust them to whatever you think would fit your build specifically, whether it comes to weapons or whatever you choose. The main key points here are generating as much orbs as possible, getting super energy back faster, and also I like to use weapon surges. That way your void weapons just do a little bit more damage. I forget the exact numbers, but having a 2x weapon surge for void kind of makes it feels like it does a little bit more. So those are the ones that I would primarily focus on. But like I said, feel free to copy these down. These are what I found works the absolute best. And as always, if you have suggestions, leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys are running. If you think there's anything better for these slots, please let me know. Now for the overall subclass options here, I think it's super important to run marksman dodge. That way you constantly have your weapons reloaded. That way you can use volatile rounds more consistently. But being able to not have to stop and reload constantly, I think is incredibly useful, especially when you dodge with the aspects you're running. You go invisible on top of that. So not only do you go invis, but you get your weapons fully reloaded. You're able to use volatile rounds. Not worry about either the timer running out or ads moving out of their groups that they're in from the super. I just like using that. And obviously triple jump. And then snare bomb, and then I like using magnetic grenades just for a little bit more DPS, but really suppressor grenades are a good option for overload champions. Vortex grenade is always a really strong option for crowd control, and just add clear. Then for aspects, running vanishing step, that way, like I said, dodging does make you go invisible. This one is one of the most fun ones in the game to use, so I make sure to keep this on. And also stylish executioner, that way whenever you defeat anybody who's weakened, suppressed, volatile, not only do you get invisible on top of that, you also get true sight, which is kind of just nice to be able to see where everything's at, but mostly we're using this for the invisibility. And then for the fragments, I'm just running Echo of Dilation, mainly for the stat boost here, just so I can get super and dodge cooldown quicker. Echo of Leeching, that way whenever we do get a melee kill, it starts health regen, and it gives you the plus 10 resilience boost, which I find super useful. Ideally, you're not going to be meleeing people too many times, but this does proc if you throw your powered melee in a group of enemies. Ideally, you're not going to be meleeing people too many times, but especially in normal Onslaught, when the ads don't have as much health, it's kind of easy just to proc health regen from that. So that's kind of what I'm using here, but this one is able to be swapped out for something if you are running Legend Onslaught. Then we're using Echo of Cessation. This one is just so that whenever you use a finisher, it just causes a giant burst of void damage, essentially. That causes everything around to become volatile. And then on top of that, whenever you defeat those volatile targets, you get Void Breach. That way you get more class ability energy, so you get to dodge more often, go invis more often. It's just a really fun way to chain your abilities around. And lastly, Echo of Domineering. That way, after you suppress a target, you get increased mobility and all of your weapons get reloaded. This one is mainly used for when I'm running Suppressing Grenade. As you can see though, like I said, I was running Magnetic Grenade for the extra damage. But mainly, Suppressor Grenade is going to be useful here. And also the plus 10 Discipline boost. You really can't go wrong with that. But that'll about wrap up the video. If you guys did enjoy this one, let me know in the comments below. It's been a while since I've done just a talking video with background footage. But I feel like this would be a good fit, so I can talk about the build more in depth while also showing you guys some gameplay, how it works specifically. Make sure to leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think. Especially let me know what you guys want to see next time. If you want more of these videos, make sure to let me know. And as always, if you did enjoy, leave a like, comment, sub, all that great stuff down below. It really does help me out a lot. But other than that, I appreciate you guys all for sticking around and watching the video. And I'll talk to you all next time.